Hey everybody, welcome back to the Danielle D'Onofrio Daily Podcast. I'm Danielle, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. We are going to talk about what it means to find your voice and how that is connected to the healing and personal development journey. I released a video a couple days ago talking about what is it that we're actually going after when we are on this journey, when we're trying to improve ourselves, when we're trying to improve our lives. What is it exactly that we're trying to get to? And I'm just thinking about that in the context of finding your voice today because I have been writing probably my entire adult life. And when I was in college, I really got into journalistic writing and tackling issues that were a bit controversial. And as a person who back then in college, so I was in my, probably 20 years old when I started journalistic writing, I was not on the healing journey. I was not, I'm sure there was some natural healing happening because I was away from home for the first time. I was in university around many different people. I was doing new things. So there's natural healing that happens. I talk a lot about my intentional journey, which was when I decided, okay, something has to change and I need to put the focus into, what I'm doing to change my life in a way that that matters to me and that pushes me in the direction that I want to go. So those are, not a topic I was planning to talk about today, but that's actually an important distinction to make. That when we put ourselves in new and different environments, such as going off to college, right? I know the whole concept of college and university is controversial these days, but sort of the traditional idea of college where you're going off and you're learning how to live by yourself for the first time, and you're learning different things and you're around different people, and there are new challenges, there's classes, you're writing papers and doing projects. There's natural healing that happens when you go into a new environment out of your comfort zone, which I talk a ton about on this channel. And you're sort of forced to become the person who can manage those things, right? And you learn about yourself in the process. And then there's the intentional journey, which is you have very consciously decided something has got to change about me or my life, about you or your life. And you're going to start to put in the work and the self-examination and the restorative practices to help you figure things out and to start navigating in the direction that you want to go. So the reason I bring up that this was I was not yet anywhere close to my intentional journey is because I was still covered in all of those defense mechanisms, the layers that I talked about in yesterday's podcast, the layers that are essentially all of our survival tactics where we're protecting ourselves and we're trying to, kind of keep everyone at a safe distance so that we can't get hurt, right? And that happens when we survive, difficult things in our past, dysfunction in our childhoods, and any number of things, right? We kind of start to layer these things on to protect ourselves, or there are defense mechanisms to try to avoid being hurt again, right? So I was, definitely submerged in those layers when I was in college still, maybe starting to just peel back the corner on some of them. But I was still sort of in it. I was definitely not conscious of the fact that anything about my past had been difficult, or that I, struggled with false beliefs and certain traits that made certain circumstances difficult for me, certain relationships difficult for me. But when I got into college and I got into these journalistic classes, I discovered the fact that I could actually start writing about things that were important, and that I could write down my opinion, and I could interview people, and I could pull together a story on controversial topics to make change, in the community around me, and be safe doing that. And again, just like college and university is sort of a controversial topic right now, journalism is a bit of a controversial topic right now because we've sort of gone away from what it means to be a journalist. And, there are some people out there who are trying to reinvigorate the true concept of journalism. But I would say back when I was in college, just as a journalist student, I still could embody those things because they were still trying to teach us about, the First Amendment and things like that. But, this isn't meant to be political. My point is that I realized that there was, this whole concept of freedom of speech really struck a chord with me. It really struck a chord with me that I could, as a journalist, write whatever I wanted, within the bounds of the law, right? And we're not going out to lie or hurt anybody, right? But, you know, while being ethical, you can write anything you want. You can point out anything that you want. You can make a case for anything you want. And you could put your thoughts and ideas on paper and put it out to an audience, right? And for me, my audience at that point was just, maybe a couple thousand people who read this school newspaper, which at that point I wrote a couple of articles and then became, the managing editor for the paper, which was awesome. And that, like I said, that really struck a chord with me. And I think there's a reason, and I'm thinking this out in real time as I'm talking to you on this podcast right now. I think it struck a chord with me because I grew up and came into, my teen years and even came into college, not really feeling like I could speak up for myself or not really feeling like I could say whatever I wanted. So as adult children, we struggle with something called codependency, which I talked about in I think it was my last video or the video before. If you want to check it out, just go ahead and look. It's one of the most recent. We struggle with something called codependency, where we're very, very, very concerned with the thoughts, opinions, feelings, moods. We're very concerned with everyone else around us, right? And we kind of, a lot of times when you struggle with codependency, you want to, keep the peace, avoid conflict at all costs. You don't want to piss anybody off. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so you kind of tend to say what you think you're supposed to say. And you can go, your whole childhood, you can go your teen years, your 20s, you can go your entire life. I've seen it myself. You can go your entire life believing that you're not allowed to say what you want to say, or not even considering saying what you want to say because you're still in that survival mindset, just trying to say what you think everyone wants to hear and what will keep everyone happy. So I think that's one of the reasons why journalism really struck a chord with me, is because it gave me that glimmer of like, whoa, there's like an existence that I could have now or in the future where I'm allowed to say what I want to say about like kind of anything I want to talk about. That was kind of amazing to me. And I didn't make the connection. Like I said, very early on, this was way before the intentional journey, no concept of like why this would be important to me. But now I'm realizing it, that this glimmer of like, I think it felt like freedom, and it felt like power in a way, not power in a negative sense, but personal power. Like, whoa, I can actually talk about what I want to talk about. And actually, if I tick a couple of people off, if some people are upset, that's probably a good thing, because I'm talking about topics where there are 2, 3, 4 sides to the argument, or 2, 3, 4 perspectives coming. And then I'm allowed to have a perspective. I'm allowed to have an opinion. I'm allowed to talk to a bunch of different people and bring a story together. And so anyway, I continued to work for the school paper throughout the rest of my college experience, and eventually transitioned sort of my writing and communication skills into marketing. So in my 20s and some of my 30s, I worked in marketing, which just, made a better living. And I did really like marketing, but journalism made me feel alive. And when I ended up leaving my marketing career to stay home with my kids, I still remembered my journalism experience, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about becoming a journalist, but I've always been just completely captivated by writing and about putting ideas on paper and being able to influence, the way people think about things, and really inspire people to think about things differently. And so I have been writing blogs and articles and everything you can think of, my own journal. I'm, more than halfway through my first book. I've been writing all of these years. And I have an article. I actually just started a Substack channel, I guess you call it. I just started a Substack and I posted my first article. I will link to that article in the description below so you guys can take a look. But it's my first time getting back into sort of dipping my toes into the controversial waters and talking about a topic and putting it out into the public, a topic that is going to ruffle some feathers. And my point is not to ruffle some feathers, it's to just to put my open and honest observations and opinions onto paper and out into the world for people to read, because there is something so freeing and something so healing about being honest and saying, this is how I think about things, and the way I think about things is important too. And so I'm going to put this out here, and people can respond, react however they choose, but what matters is that I have put my opinion on paper and published it. And I'm thinking a lot about that because I think it's so critical to the healing journey. When I think about, and I started this podcast off saying that I want to connect that to what we're really going for when we set out on a healing and growth journey. You know, a lot of times in the beginning, we're just so stressed and we're so full of just anxiousness and shame, and we struggle with our moods and we struggle with our trauma responses that, you know, those are the first things we tend to focus on when we start the journey. And the thing is, and I've talked about this before, is that it's really difficult to just focus on one thing, because the way you heal all of the symptoms of your past trauma or the dysfunction that you've survived, or the way you peel back the layers and get to a happy, peaceful, abundant life, is not always the way you expect it. You know, it's almost like just in medicine, people talk about treating a symptom, where you have to get to that's not necessarily the most effective way, right? We want to get to the root problem. We want to heal ourselves all the way down to our core, right? So that those symptoms disappear and we don't have to treat them anymore, right? So I think when we go into the journey and we're thinking that, okay, I have this trauma response in this circumstance or in these situations, this trauma response is showing up for me, and I want to get rid of that trauma response. So I'm going to focus on that trauma response and see if I can control it. See if I can just have more patience in those moments. See if I can just keep a level head in those moments. See if I can stay grounded, and maybe that trauma response will disappear. I'm here to tell you that that's not how it works, and I had to learn the hard way. You know, a lot of my trauma responses, you know, oh my gosh, I could write a whole book just on trauma responses alone. You know, we're triggered by, I mean, I can't even one example is triggered by, you know, becoming a mother and the raw emotion associated with parenthood and things like that. And, you know, my ability to be peaceful and present and patient in moments in parenting, right? Every time I tried to control those responses and what was showing up for me in those moments, it felt like I was not in control of myself. Like the emotions that just well up in us seem to just take control. It's like a wave crashing, right? It just takes over. And what I learned years into the journey was that it's not about, you know, spot targeting our issues. It's about journeying, traveling deep within our layers to figure out who we really are, to like meet our authenticity. And every time I say that word authenticity, I'm like, oh, I know people who are watching this have probably heard that word over and over and over again. But authenticity just means like, who are you really? Who are you beneath that survival mentality? Who are you beneath the defense mechanisms and all of the the undesirable traits that you are experiencing in yourself, and that maybe impact your relationships, and that maybe impact the quality of your life? Like, who are you underneath? Who are you, and who would you be? How would you be behaving if you didn't have fear and shame and self-consciousness and any number of false beliefs that you've picked up along the way, right? The journey is about finding that, and as you navigate closer and closer to that, the trauma responses and everything and all the woundedness and the things that you're struggling with in your life, those things just start to disappear, right? They always stay in the background. They're always there, ready to show up if you need them, okay? They're always there to like sort of course correct you. If you go too far off course, if you sort of start to get lazy in your journey, and there's tons of maintenance that we have to do. The journey lasts a lifetime. Remember, those trauma responses, they're like memories. You know, um, they're just always there, right? It's the healing journey is about taking back control from those trauma responses. But if, like I said, if we veer too far off course, they will show up to push us back to where we're supposed to go. But like I said, you gain back your control, you gain back your personal power. The only thing you have to focus on this journey is traveling inward. So I have an ebook, which I will also link in the description below, and that describes my methodology for healing and personal growth for people who have survived a dysfunctional childhood, dysfunctional family systems, maybe parents who have struggled with addiction, that kind of stuff. And my methodology takes you through a lifestyle approach to healing and personal development, and it's a four-pronged approach, so it's really a system. The four pillars are boundaries, movement, exploration, and energetic self-care. And we are employing tactics and designing our whole lifestyle to be rehabilitative, to rehabilitate the authentic self. And that is solely focused on journeying inward. And like I said, the byproduct of that is you become a happier, more peaceful version of yourself who is not so controlled by those trauma responses and the things that you're struggling with in your life. So it's not about spot targeting. But here's the thing: is as we travel closer to our authenticity, one way that the sort of alignment with our authenticity shows up is through us finding our voice. And what does it mean to find your voice? When you have your voice and you can employ your voice completely, you have healed codependency, first of all. And codependency is one of the core wounds that adult children bring with them into adulthood. If you are fully in your voice, you have healed codependency, because you can say what you need, you can say what you feel, you can say no, you can say yes. You can be who you are without fear of the responses and reactions around you. You are comfortable and secure enough with who you are to be able to say, I'm going to say this because it's my truth, it's what I believe, it's what I feel, it's what I enjoy. I can say those things. I can, even if it's not words, I can express myself, I can express who I am, and it doesn't matter what anyone around me thinks of it, right? We're not controlled by people's judgments. We're not controlled by knowing that half the people who hear us or read our work or who experience us as we are, if half of the people, even more, may not like us, not be into our art, may not be into the expression of us, right? And we are totally okay with that. And so I think that, like I said, just kind of bringing it back, I think that is why journalism piqued my interest so much back in college. And again, that's like 20 years ago now. And is it 20 years ago? Yeah, I'm 40. So yeah, it's a long time ago now, and I've never been able to let go. And I've tried because I've been a busy mom, and I worked full time in a marketing career for a long time. So I try to kind of push that journalistic writing and just putting my opinion out there, just saying, that's not important right now because I have to work and make money for my family, and then now I'm a busy mom, I'm taking care of my kids and my home, but I've realized over time that is a big part of healing. So if you are on the journey, one of the best things that you can do, and I talk about this in my book, almost, oh my gosh, I'd say at least half of the practices in my book involve some form of journaling. If you can get used to writing your thoughts every single day, I have a number of different practices and prompts in the book, which will be available later this year. If you can just get used to writing your thoughts down, if you have, this is about how you feel, what you think you need, what you want to do, what your interests are, but also if there's something going on around you, in your community, things that you're seeing out in culture, or, anything, if you have a new idea for something, practicing sort of writing down and expressing your thoughts on that is a really transformative practice. And even if you don't put it out into the public, just practice actually putting what you uniquely believe about a subject down on paper. Just absolutely transformative. And if you can get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm going to put this on social media, or I'm going to publish this on, a blog, or see if this magazine wants to run my piece, or even if it's just a poem, it's, I know that that's not for everyone, but if you can even just bring yourself to do it just for yourself in your own journal, you will immediately see the effects. It's just, writing is such a cathartic, therapeutic practice that I cannot recommend it enough. Like I said, my methodology, which you can learn about in my ebook, I'll link down below. It will be explained in depth in my full book, which is coming out later this year. It's at least half of the practices include writing. So I'm going to wrap that up. If you guys want to go read my first article, well, it's not my first article, but it's my first sort of controversial article that I have written in a long time, trying to get back to those journalistic roots. I'll include a link down in the description below. And I'm going to wrap it up for today. But thank you so much. If you've stuck around for this long in the video, thank you so much. I just really appreciate having you here. If this content was helpful, I'd love for you to hit the thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you get alerted when I release these videos every day, and I will catch you tomorrow. Thank you so much. I'll catch you later. Bye.